Hey, welcome to Prophecy Roundtable. Man, we got some great stuff tonight. Wars and rumors of wars. Boy, is that happening? I would say it is. But we have a special guest with us tonight, Abraham Ojeda, and he's going to help us understand the end times. I'm looking forward to it. So without further ado, let's get into this. Hey, guys, great to see everybody. Yeah, Scott, don't look too interested. Okay, yeah, I know.
Listen, you're doing your little perfunctory stuff. Well, I'll get rolling when we
Yeah.
Abraham is in the house. Pump it up, pump it up.
All right.
We're going to have a great show tonight, everybody. I've got some books that are awesome to read.
Oh, man.
Hey, by the way, we have a Telegram group, and we want everyone to join. So we're going to put that in the link, all right, or in the chat, the link in the chat. And so if you guys care to join us, please do. We have a lot of fun. We talk about, well, pretty much anything related to prophecy. So that'll be really cool. We'd love for you to join us. So Abraham, tell us what is going on. Where do we stand? You know,
wars and rumors of wars. What's going on, Abraham?
Are we looking at tea leaves, or are we looking at kidneys and livers and stuff? I'm just joking. But yeah,
it's first of all, thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed our last conversation this month. It was a blast. Absolutely love hanging out with you guys, and it's so intimidating to kind of analyze the landscape these days because there's so much going on all the time, whether it's orbs or fires in LA. Like, there's so much stuff, but I want to focus kind of on the main things tonight. And I'm going to brief you guys in just a second. What I'm really excited to talk about is, Deuteronomy 19:15 says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, a thing shall be established, right? For a court of law, under theocratic rule in the Torah, and even in the New Testament, Jesus repeats the same thing, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, boom. So what I'm going to give you guys tonight are 3 witnesses, not 1, not 2, but 3, that point to Iran's role in end times prophecy, because it's not a auxiliary role, it's not a subsidiary role. Iran and the nation of Iran plays a massive role in end times prophecy. I'm excited to talk about that. First, let me kind of brief you guys on what's been going on. I prepared a little synopsis of things that have been going on since last weekend, and we're going to be looking at some things going into this weekend. Okay, so last weekend, January 12th, we see that Iran is launching an air defense drill, lots of drills near key nuclear sites. So we're talking about places that both enrich uranium and are used for production of, obviously, weapons-grade uranium. So according to the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, the exercises will continue in various parts of Iran until mid-March in response to what they're saying are new security threats. So that's from last weekend. So we're still seeing escalation, even though, so if we fast forward to yesterday, January 15th, Israel and Hamas are saying, hey, we're reaching a ceasefire deal designed to end the 15th month Gaza war. Well, even though there's a temporary deal, it's, we've seen this before. I think I'm losing track at this point. If it's the 3rd time or 4th time there's been some sort of a ceasefire agreement, eventually either the IDF or somebody starts shooting, or somebody starts putting dropping a bomb somewhere, and these peace talks kind of fall through. I guess the wild card is Trump, which I'm going to talk about more in just a second. First, Monday, so just this Monday, Moscow accused Ukraine of conducting energy terrorism after what the Kremlin described as a failed drone attack against a Black Sea gas compressor station. Now, check this out. That forms part of the major Turk Stream gas pipeline linking Russia and Turkey, and that's billions of dollars of natural gas. So that's a problem. When you see that, in this case, Ukraine is provoking closer ties between a country like Turkey, which is the 2nd largest military in all of NATO. So the US is number 1 at 1.3 million standing army. Turkey is second largest military in NATO. They have 300,000 strong. That's a large force. And so you don't want to be provoking a nation that already has had, pretty threatening rhetoric towards Netanyahu, towards Israel. But that's what we saw going on Monday, just this week, that Ukraine is doing some kind of drone attacks that affect gas between Turkey and Russia. So that's strengthening relations between Turkey and Russia. How significant is that for Bible prophecy? Then, like I said yesterday, we had the ceasefire. We'll see how long that lasts. Tomorrow, so right now it's Thursday, January 16th. Tomorrow, Iran is meeting with Russia in Moscow to discuss a widespread, okay, this is a big defensive agreement. So they're going to be exchanging more military assets, cooperation. So you're seeing Iran strengthening ties with Russia in an unprecedented way. They've already been cooperating in the past, but we're just seeing things really tighten up, guys. And then, of course, so going into this weekend, we have a rally in DC. It's Trump's victory rally on January 19th. There's expected to be 21,000 in attendance. The theme of the rally is to usher in America's new golden age, which I talked about this a little bit last time I was here with you guys on the roundtable. In classical Greek mythology, the golden age is like, you know, it was led by a guy named Titan Cronus. In Latin, authors associated the golden age with Saturn, which you can look at this in the Bible. It's not a good thing. So what do they mean by golden age? It's not what you might want. Now, before I continue any further, guys, look, I get a lot of heat. When I approach geopolitics, when I approach the things we're going to be talking about tonight, I am apolitical, 100%. I know that's really hard for people to understand and really hard for people to believe, but I am a very apolitical person. I just look at these things, and I understand Psalm 110 verses 1 and 2, where it says that Yeshua HaMashiach is seated in the heavenlies. He rules and reigns in the midst of his enemies until all of them are his footstool. And they already are, but until they're all defeated, he's going to be ruling and reigning in the midst of his enemies. So I don't pick sides. I don't pick sides. Go ahead, brother.
And real quick, I would say I'm anti-political over the past 7-ish, 8-ish years. I hate both sides of the politics, and some people don't like it. They believe I should like one side or the other. And being apolitical or even anti-political as far as these two parties, there's nothing wrong with that. Just because I don't want to kiss Trump's butt or love on Biden or Kamala or either side, I just, put a gun to my head in the last election, I would have pulled the trigger for Trump, but you would have had to put a gun to my head. So go ahead, brother.
Yeah, no, we're having our true confessions here, because some people have been writing saying that some or all of us are too political one way or another. And let me just, since we're doing the mea culpa right now, and kind of sharing our hearts, just so you guys know, I'm a Republican. I know he sounds like a Democrat. Look, I wasn't in love with Biden. I just,
big Mike and Obama.
He scares me. Yeah. He just scares me because I just see totalitarianism coming. But I hope I'm wrong. So I hope it's all wonderful and peachy.
Hey, maybe we'll be like the video Elon Musk sent out today as he's landing his rocket, that we're entering the golden age.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, little trigger words, buzzwords for 2025.
I just feel like we've had this show before, and it didn't end well. So I hope, if I'm wrong, you guys can all tell me. That's fine.
I won't apologize for being an endorsed Republican 2 times. So there you go. You're stuck.
Well, thank you for being so right, Joe. We appreciate that.
Well, I won this time.
All right. Enough confessions here. All right. So
Abraham, there are these rumors of wars, and so you're talking about rumors right now. I don't see anybody actively fighting between Turkey and Ukraine, and I see the Ukraine war. We'll go on record here. And Scott, I'm not prophesying. I'm just saying I think Trump will end the Ukraine war within a week or so of taking office. Okay, literally, it's going to happen that fast.
Wow, just peace and safety, man. I mean, he's going to bring all the hostages home, and there's going to be kumbaya.
Well, okay. Was it Biden bringing them home or Trump? Trump got involved, and the Gazans said it seems like the Trump team knows what they're talking about, and we better get on the stick. And they did.
Damien's clone are probably over there in Saudi working out wonderful peace deals with the prince, and just we'll enter the golden age here.
Yeah,
let's be careful not to ascribe too much credit where it's not due. I mean, it's not like the Israelis haven't been working on trying to get the hostages, freed. Like, they're not waiting for any American president to come and save them. If they've learned one thing from the Holocaust, is that no one's going to save their butt. Okay, Yeah, they're going to go and do it themselves.
Yeah,
So what I'm
guys,
saying is this
see-
whole world is a stage, and we're being played like fiddles.
Yes.
Okay?
It is a stage. It's a political. It's a circus, no doubt about it. But Trump is better in the circus than anybody else on the planet.
No,
He knows how to.
he's
He
the
is the
ringmaster.
negotiator. He's the ringmaster too. Now, but there is a satanic ringmaster too, guys. But
Yeah, we'll put him on that team. Yeah.
Just for the record, I'm not saying anything. Okay.
no, whoa.
Yeah, he
So
probably
okay.
has
But
Scott,
Abraham,
black cube on the
you
top.
saw
People
it
send
in
an
the
email to send to Scott, but let's just
yeah,
get
send
your
it to
email.
Scott. I'm the Republican guy. Remember
Abraham,
that,
bring
okay?
up your screen, buddy. Bring up
I'm
your
wearing
screen.
orange in honor of Trump winning, so no, I love orange. You know that.
Oh my gosh. All right. Back
So
to
Abraham, there are these wars, rumors of wars, but we had World War I. That was huge. We had World War II. That was huge. We haven't seen World War III yet. And we see the rumors, and the word in the Greek is akou. So it would be acoustic. It's hearing. We're hearing these things, but we're not seeing any wars, really. We're actually seeing things on the downside, I think.
Well, it really depends on your perspective. You ask someone who's living in Ukraine, they're going to tell you something different. You ask someone who's living, in Israel, So earlier this week, there were some Palestine 2 hypersonic ballistic missiles launched from Yemen. They did 3 operations successfully in 12 hours, guys. So Israel's getting hit up regularly. It's just we become a little bit desensitized to these things. When Trump comes in just a few days, right? We got 4 days now. Trump's taken office. I think it's just a different world than when he left. And there's been tremendous loss of life on both sides of the Ukraine conflict. Russia has lost its over 100,000, hundreds of thousands of troops. I really don't know the exact numbers. No one really does. We can speculate. We can look at certain reports, but it's hundreds of thousands. I mean, there's been a tremendous loss of life on both sides. And when there's that much blood spilled, there really is hell to pay. There's really a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of angst, and there's a vendetta, I think. So the Russians, obviously, they're posturing. Like I said, tomorrow they're meeting with Mahmoud Pezeshkian from Iran, and they are making a strategic partnership. So that's going on tomorrow. Going into the weekend, we have the TikTok ban, which is, I think, very interesting news, because I think there's a lot of speculation. I posted a video about this on my channel today. There's a lot of leverage that Trump is going to be able to use geopolitically in negotiations with China with the TikTok ban. Because he's most likely going to delay it, going to negotiate it, figure out a way to compromise, and eventually, I believe TikTok will be under the umbrella of the Western media industrial complex, and which is going to give them a lot. I mean, they already have the AI with OpenAI, with Palantir, with XAI. They have all these AI companies. Data centers are being set up right now. And so what we're seeing, guys, with Trump coming in, I have an article here somewhere on my desk, but there's literally, Trump announced, this was on January 7th, a $20 billion investment by an Emirati, so a UAE businessman. A foreigner is coming to the US to invest in data centers. Okay, so this is very interesting because it's not just someone from the UAE. There's also a Japanese billionaire investor, Masayoshi Son. He's going to help invest. Together they're rallying a bunch of people to invest $100 billion in the U.S. and they're really focusing on data centers. So I think what we're seeing, guys, is we're seeing, in some ways, yes, it appears that things are cooling off, but they're going for broke this time, guys. I think we're really looking for a surveillance state, a technocracy. Like you guys were kind of laughing about it before we went live. I think we're seeing a technocratic state that's going to be based on energy and carbon credits. And he who is king of the commodities, he who is king of energy, is going to be the one who's top dog at the end of this show. And so seeing that, right, because that's what's going on in Russia, guys. It's all about resources. It's all about energy. They don't want Russia to have all that natural gas, uranium. I mean, just all the things, gold, all the natural resources that Russia has. The West doesn't want Putin to have it to strengthen his military. They want to demilitarize Iran. They want to demilitarize Russia. The West is going for broke, and they want a mass surveillance state. That's what I'm seeing with all the money. You got to follow the money, right, guys? That's what I'm seeing happening. And so with Trump coming in, the golden age is, like he said, it's the age of Saturn, pretty much, right? And I think we're going to see this AI takeover is what I'm seeing.
And again, not being political right now, but that is what I see coming. You let some more terrorist attacks, things of that nature. You have all these illegals and violent people in this country. You have China, Korean age military in this country. You have terrorists in this country. So, of course, if and when this does occur, I believe, this is not the Biden administration. Everybody was not stupid. This was part of the plan to do this, I believe, to destabilize. So someone can swoop in and be the savior with technology and AI, digital IDs, therefore round up all these criminals, keep people out, but it's also going to be used to keep you in. And there's going to be more control, more surveillance, and we're going to be living in sort of a dystopia. And I'm not saying it's going to happen this next year. I believe things are going to be set up as events unfold, if they unfold over this next year, for everybody like my college buddies who just love and literally do sniff Donald Trump's butt and think Elon is the best thing since sliced bread, and he's really about free speech. They can't see the symbolism. They don't understand. They've been programmed since they're children. And I'm sorry if anybody gets upset about me not trusting Trump or Elon or any of these world leaders. Yah appointed them. It doesn't mean I have to trust them. They will do his purpose and his will. The conspiracy theorists give the head puppets way too much credit. Yah's up there allowing these head puppets to effectuate his plan. And I believe part of the plan is this beast system that could be going online in the very near future.
Oh, no.
Conspiracy and I really do not care if it hurts your little feelings, that I don't care for the orange man.
Show it again, Doug.
Send somebody else an email.
Yes.
Scott, keep on talking. Doug, show what you were talking about.
Okay, so where's my so right here, okay, this thing on the back of your dollar bill, okay, let's see if I can zoom in here without everything's backwards. That's the trouble. But you can see there, so right, it says Annuit Cuptus Novus Ordo Subclorum, right? So the New World Order. And I mean, that's right there on the back of our dollar bills. That was put there by Freemasons. We should be pretty clear about that. Now there's all kinds of symbolism. There's 13 levels and all that stuff. We don't have to go into all that by any means, but let's just say that the New World Order is not something brand new. So I believe in some of the conspiracies, Scott. I do.
Not conspiracy, it's fact.
I know. And I actually wanted to get your opinion, Abraham, on Albert Pike's prediction of the 3 world wars. I think it's really interesting. I've never quite known what to do. Like I'm not 100% convinced that it's that it's all legit. But the more the more time goes on, and the more things just kind of get weirder and weirder, I'm kind of like, well, maybe we're getting pretty close. So World War I. So supposedly he said this back in 1871. All right, we don't know, but that's the supposition. All right, so he said the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergence is caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state in Israel and Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must be strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would then be restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. And then World War III must be fomented by taking advantage of differences between the agentur of the Illuminati, between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, Muslim, Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. All right, wow. So, like I said, I've kind of been on the fence whether that's 100% legit. I think probably it is, but I'm not 100% sure.
Whether legit, it's true. The guy could have just read the Bible and see what happened.
Well, I mean, fair enough. I mean, there's questions whether it was written, after his life and after World War I and II. I don't know. But in any event, World War III hasn't yet happened, obviously, and that one is certainly predictive. And if World War I and II were also indeed a prediction that he got from Lucifer, or Satan, then it would suggest that World War III, that he's probably accurate on that one as well, at least from Satan's perspective. So, I don't know. I mean, it is interesting because we do see kind of a return. We see a lot of Christianity's going down. I mean, churches are going bankrupt all the time. We also have some of the crazies, on church. The ones that are doing okay are really crazy. And then you have, there's just, there's also a lot of spirituality. Like people are spiritual, they're not Christian, whatever. So, I just see a lot of weird things happening. So anyway.
Yeah. Let me chime in here for a second, Doug. So in my book, Bible Prophecy Secrets, I do actually cite that what you just quoted from Albert Pike, 33rd degree Mason of the Scottish Rite. I'm curious, what's your source for that? Before I say anything else.
I mean, I have to go back and double check. I mean,
I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot, brother.
No, it's all good. I mean, I don't have that in front of me, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's the hardest part actually about that source is I could not find a reliable source, and the earliest I was able to date it was still really valid within reason. It's from a guy named William Guy Carr in Pawns in the Game. I don't know if you guys know about Pawns in the Game. 1956, that was first released, and it's in the introduction of that book. And on the book, it has like a checkerboard, which is very Freemason. It's one of their symbols, black and white checkers, and it talks about their plans basically and so forth. So yeah, William Guy Carr in 1956. I think I still think it's valid, right? Because he's the first one to be like, this is kind of like a wives' tale. Let me put it on paper. And it went from being kind of like an oral tradition to something that's documented. But I think it's very valid. Obviously, we've been seeing it play out. So yeah, that's definitely something worth looking at because we've already been witnessing it.
So let's talk about World War III. I mean, some people think World War III is Armageddon, the apocalypse. I don't know. I mean, I'm up in the air. If it's to the extent that World War I and II were, then it's going to be crazy big and darn scary. But it may not be the end. It may not be, it may not be the apocalypse. It may not be the War of Armageddon. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, let me give you guys. Let's look at Matthew 24. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Because I think what I'm going to provide for you guys, like I started with the introduction today, it's like I have 3 witnesses for you guys. And the reason most people aren't able to see what I'm going to show you guys, which I've presented one time on Overcome Babylon, so I haven't done it a ton, and it's in my book, but the reason people can't see it is because of dispensational theology. First of all, that's a huge problem. But yeah, most people have a historicist point of view. Even that can be a problem when looking at Matthew 24, Luke 21, and Mark 13. Because when you look at Luke 21 in isolation, it looks like he's not really talking about end times, but you corroborate it with Matthew and Mark, and this is an end times thing. So you got to look at all 3. The book of Daniel, guys, the book of Daniel is only mentioned in the New Testament in Mark chapter 13 and Matthew chapter 24. It's just mentioned there. And so Paul never talked about the book of Daniel. Nobody ever talked about the book of Daniel except for Yeshua. He said, when you see the abomination of desolation, and that's only mentioned twice, Mark 13, 14, and then Matthew 24, I believe it's verse 15. I have to look at it again. Sure. But yeah, it is 15. Sure. When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand, right? Now, do you want me to put this on screen, Doug? I can put this on screen if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, sure.
Well, let me see. I forgot how to do it.
Present.
Yeah, I got you.
There we go.
Right here. So when you see the abomination of desolation, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. I'm going to pause right there. So the thing about Yeshua, right? He's the word made flesh, John chapter 1, verse 1. We know he tabernacled among us in a tent of flesh. Matthew chapter 5. I have come to fulfill certain things in the law and then proclaim the rest, which he continued to do throughout his ministry. What he's actually, when he says, okay, abomination of desolation, if you're on the housetop, don't go down to get anything out of your house. Do you guys know he's actually quoting something? I'm curious. Do you guys know he's quoting something here?
Well, I mean, you when you say it like that, you sound like a lawyer trying to trick me into saying either I agree with you or I don't. So spit it out.
Oh, I love leaving you. I'm going to leave you guys in suspense a little bit, okay? Because again, this is a very groundbreaking analysis that once you see it, you can't unsee it. So he's actually quoting Isaiah chapter 22. It says the burden against the valley of vision. Of course, this is just a nickname for Jerusalem. I agree with the man-made title here. It's a place where prophets have always received visions from old. By the way, again, this may not seem related to World War III. It definitely does because it ties into Iran. I'm going to show you guys right here, right now in just a second. But so what ails you now that you have all gone up to the housetops in Jerusalem, housetops? Now, we know that Matthew 24 is talking about Jerusalem because it's corroborated by Luke 21. When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies. And this can't be a historical event because he said this is going to be happening in the last days in Matthew 24 and Mark 13. So it can't be historical. Okay, it's all, they're all parallels. So what is going on with the Valley of Vision, guys? Because I think that whenever I talk to people about this, I think there's a hesitancy that, I think this has already happened historically. But I think when you look at this deeply, you'll see that this probably could never have been historical because of how this is described. Who are full of noise.
You're choir preaching right here to us. So none of us are preterists or full-blown historicists. So
if someone's listening and you're historicist, I encourage you to have an open mind. So for everybody listening, right?
I would just add that historicism is partially true, preterism is partially true, polemicism is partially true, and futurism, there will be a future final fulfillment, which is 100% true.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Cyclicism.
So I'll let me just get in here, Scott. Here's what I'm saying. Your slain men are not slain with the sword nor dead in battle. So automatically we rule out the Jewish-Roman wars. We rule out Babylon coming with all his men. Obviously, the Assyrians never defeated Jerusalem. 185,000 died. Hezekiah was blessed. But, so Assyria didn't do it. Babylon didn't do it. Rome didn't do it. Because they all came with soldiers. But it says in verse 3 of 22 of Isaiah, all your rulers have fled together. They are captured by archers. All who are found in you are bound together. They have fled from afar. And then, that we take a pause from the narrative. There's, I'm weeping bitterly. It says it's a day of trouble by Yehovah Elohim of hosts in the Valley of Vision. And then here is where we get the clue, guys. Elam bore the quiver with chariots of men and horsemen, and Kir uncovered the shield. So that is Iran 100% mentioned. Now, I'm curious what you guys know about Iran's archery. I can stop sharing here. But you have two nations mentioned in terrorizing and overthrowing Jerusalem not with battle, with only archery. It's Elam bearing the quiver and Kir uncovering the shield. When you look at the Bible Atlas on those, so Kir is anywhere from like modern day Iraq all the way to Turkey. That's why it's important to pay attention to Turkey, guys. So basically, you have the whole Middle East uncovering the shield after Elam does something. So this is a big clue. And again, that's why I talk about Iran so much in my work, because if you look up where Elam is actually a Shemitic people. If you go back all the way to the genealogies of Genesis, it's actually a Shemitic people group from Shem, but they split off and settled over there in the mountainous southern western border of Iran, right there historically. That's always been Elam. And it's funny, there's even ministries like Elam International that, like, they're Christian ministries that evangelize Muslims in Iran. One of them is called Elam Ministries. It's like everybody knows that Elam is Iran, but for some reason we don't think to connect what Yeshua said about the housetops to Isaiah chapter 22 verse 6.
Okay, that's intriguing.
That's very intriguing.
Yeah, have you guys seen this before? Or
no, I haven't. That's really cool.
No, I have.
Cool.
Well, because, chapter 23 is dealing with Tyre. So Doug and I tend to go with chapter 24 through 28 and really dig into that in the Hebrew. But you're right, there are some connections. So there you go. Keep on going.
Yeah, and I could, I don't want to exposit too much of Isaiah 22 because it's pretty straightforward. There's going to be some crazy stuff that happens. What's interesting about the timing, though, I should mention the timing, because I'm speculating based off of Matthew 24 and what it says here. It says in verse 12 of Isaiah 22, in that day when Elam bears the quiver and overthrows Jerusalem, everybody's on the housetops wailing, weeping. So in that day that happens, the Lord God of hosts called for weeping and for mourning, for baldness and for girding with sackcloth, but instead there was joy and gladness, slaying oxen and killing sheep, eating meat and drinking wine, saying, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Then it was revealed in my hearing by the Lord of hosts, surely for this iniquity there will be no atonement for you, even to your death. So because of this wording here at the very end of the account of Elam bearing the quiver and launching the arrows, which obviously, guys, modern day missiles, right? Modern day, Iran is the most advanced military when it comes to archery, modern day archery in the whole Middle East.
Drones
as well.
They're building drones for Russia, and they shoot like archers. You're right.
Yeah. So Russia and Iran traded hundreds of ballistic missiles. Iran sold hundreds of ballistic missiles last year to Russia for their fight against Ukraine. So we're already seeing this collaboration. They're just formalizing it tomorrow. I had mentioned at the beginning that Iran also has hypersonic missiles that they've been giving to Yemen. I kind of implied that. You could have inferred that, because Yemen is a very backwards country, guys. They're backwards. Yemen is they've been bombed since the 90s. By Britain and the U.S. and Israel. But
they've had a civil war for many years, and it's been disastrous.
Yeah, and Yemen, for them to have hypersonic, ballistic missiles, they're calling the Palestine 2s, and they're hitting Israel. Guys, it's Iran. It's a proxy. It's a proxy of Iran. I know people don't really like that. The geopolitics guys are like, no, they're their own independent armies. That's not their technology. So Yemen is actually testing Iranians' capabilities. And they've been successful so far, because when you do the math, so let me just break this down real quick. From the western border of Iran, the Zagros Mountains, that whole range, it's loaded up with missile silos. When you look at the distance from the western mountain range of Iran all the way to Jerusalem, you're looking at about 1,000 to 1,100, maybe even 1,200 kilometers. And from Yemen to Jerusalem, or anywhere in Israel, Tel Aviv, you're looking at double that. And what I've done is I've calculated how long, like Israel said, according to their intel, okay, we got hit at this time, and it was said that it was launched at this time. It's actually 12 minutes. And Iran says and brags that they can hit Israel in 6.66 minutes, which is an interesting number. But that's what Iran on the official reporting is saying.
Okay.
They can hit Jerusalem in 6.66 seconds. Minutes. So double the time. That's literally double the distance. Yemen is already doing this successfully.
Well, and it could be that when that abomination of desolation, standing in the holy topos, and the word being topos, and that is one thing that I think people have overlooked, is it's not Huron, it's not Naos. No temple is required. No tabernacle is required. Yeah. It is a location that is holy, and I'm assuming that the Temple Mount is Mount Moriah. It is where Abraham took Isaac up to do, for the sacrifice. It is where the temple was. The location would be holy, irrespective of the fact that right now there's an abomination standing on it which would be the Dome of the Rock, which says, Allah has no son. I mean, there's been an ongoing abomination standing on the holy place forever, but I don't think that is the sign, because people still live in Jerusalem. They're not having to flee, and it could be if and when, different issue, but if and when, I'd love to have maybe Abraham on in the future about what the abomination will be. I personally believe it's when Judah cranks up their sacrifices from Isaiah 66:3. And if and when that occurs, I could see, linking to this though, Abraham, I could see that triggering Iran to go, oh no, we're actually, it's now time to launch this 6.6 minute missile towards Israel. And that would be a good reason to get out of Jerusalem, even if it was just, similar to the weapon that Russia used recently that didn't have nuclear warheads on it, but it was I have not heard much about that. It's almost like they're classifying what the damage results were from that Russian strike.
Yeah, I don't think we can even have a abomination of desolation until the temple has been sanctified.
Not
It has to be holy first.
The word temple is not mentioned.
But the word hagio is there, Scott.
Scott. We're agreed.
Exactly.
I'm all with you. I'm with you. I'm not arguing.
Well, I'm not.
So Yeshua couldn't say naos?
Whatever.
You don't need naos there.
I know. Okay, you're getting into the weeds here, dude. Like, I don't
know.
It's kind of important.
Or a tabernacle, whatever.
It's
that
kind
thing
of important.
called the holy thing. It can't be like the Temple Mount is not holy from God's perspective. No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Until it is actually sanctified with the red heifer and all that stuff.
Right.
Those are going to be abominations according to Isaiah 66.
I disagree with
that. That's your interpretation. We'll disagree.
No, the text says what it says.
No, it doesn't say that.
We know it says what it says, but we disagree with your interpretation.
Let me give you guys a little bit. So that's my first witness about Iran.
Sure.
Now, this doesn't have to be like a super detailed discussion on the abomination desolation. I'm just going to point your attention to Zechariah chapter 5, because obviously you guys have read this in the past. It's been like very debated because of the way that it's been preserved in the Masoretic. This one requires going back to the original language and understanding when the vowel system was introduced. That's how technical you have to get with Zechariah chapter 5. It's a very difficult passage of scripture. And when you dig into it, Zechariah 5 obviously talks about Zechariah seeing a flying scroll, which is a Megillah, whereas the Sefer, right, would be a Torah scroll with two binders, two rollers, but a Megillah would be like Esther or Ecclesiastes or Song of Solomon. It's just a one singular scroll, right? And so I don't want to necessarily beat a dead horse here if you guys are already super familiar with Zechariah chapter 5. You guys let me know. Do you want me to dig into some of the details here?
No.
Dig into the details. Our audience wants to hear it.
Quit worrying about us and just talk.
Yeah. I mean, we know Megillah, we know Sefer. Yeah, but explain it to the audience.
I've listened to Joe John. I've listened, so I know exactly where you're probably going with this, but the audience may not know.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have talked about it before recently, but throw it on screen.
Go have fun.
Throw it on screen.
Okay.
Throw it on screen, man. So he says, "Hey, look, I'm seeing a flying scroll." He gives a length and width. Obviously, it's not a square piece of paper. I do the calculations in my work. So he's given a length, he's given a width, a circumference is really what we're looking at here. Cubits, we calculate the cubits a certain way. I convert it to meters because military technology, it's all meters, right? Everybody uses meters. No one uses foot pounds in the military world or really any scientific community except for Americans. Not even Americans do, actually. When I was a chemist, we used the SI, Systeme International. Then he said, this is the curse that goes out over the face of the whole earth. This is corroborated with Joel chapter 2. I mentioned, guys, last time the palm trees of smoke. So when the day of the Lord happens, there's going to be blood, fire, and pillars, stimarot, of smoke. So mushroom clouds. I've talked about this with you guys. But yes, so this is talking about a flying missile, a flying projectile. Now, it's going to go out. The curse is going to go out. In Zechariah 5:4, it shall remain in the midst of homes and consume timber and concrete foundations, is basically what this is being translated into. Then, of course, we see an ephah. That's what the word is in Hebrew here. Ephah, the basket. He lifts up a lead disc. That's a very intentional Hebrew word choice because lead is actually the final stable product of uranium, radioactive uranium. So obviously it's talking about in the ancient Hebrew vocabulary, that's the best metal he could have picked to describe uranium. So there's a uranium disk. If you guys know about, fission, nuclear fission, and all these things, how these things work, you need to have a radioactive metal material to basically detonate, which causes a chain reaction. The end result, of course, is a mushroom cloud, but it needs to be detonated. So it looks like Zechariah is actually seeing inside of a nuclear warhead. At first, so the first part of Zechariah, it's talking about the actual missile delivery system, which could be single phase, two phase, three phase. It just depends on the distance. Someone like Iran would be using a two phase to reach Jerusalem or Israel because it's far. But if it's short range, you're just going to use a one phase, one fuel, not two fuels, not a double fuel system. So when we're looking at this, okay, there's a woman sitting in the basket. That is incorrectly translated. When you look at the Masoretic, right? You guys, I know you guys have already looked at this. Isha and Ishe, literally, it's the difference between vowels not being A's and being E's. When you look at Ishe, it means fire offering. So he's seeing a uranium disk. It's a talent, which is a specific weight.
Go back and let Doug and I look at that one more time. You're saying instead of Isha, it's Aish?
So it should be Ishe. It should have the equilateral triangles, also known as the Zeri. Is that what it's called?
So, well, how do you know it should be? How do you know that?
Because of the context. Yeah, because of the context. And this is woman, right? This is the word I did pick the correct word, right?
Woman. I mean,
yeah, Isha. So Isha. Yeah. So it's not a literal woman sitting inside of a nuclear warhead, right? It's a fire offering. So if you look at Exodus, Leviticus, it literally is the difference in vowels, guys. Now, I should slow down, right? I'm going a little too fast. In the Middle Ages, around 900, right? In the Middle Ages, the Masoretes were like, nobody is really speaking Hebrew anymore in the modern vernacular. We need to figure out a way to standardize the vowel system of the Hebrew language, which didn't really have vowels up to that time in a standardized way. It's a consonant language. You just look at the consonants and you pronounce them. But because of cultural influence and everybody's just surrounded by Hebrew-speaking people, it's easy to figure out. And we could actually read and write and speak English the same way. It's just that we use vowels because that's just the way our language is made. Hebrew was the vowel signs that we see in the Masoretic text were invented around 900 AD, Middle Ages. And so when they actually assigned the vowels here, this is one area where they made a mistake, guys. It should not be Isha, a woman in the basket. They just couldn't fathom that it'd be a fire offering in a basket, which is an ephah, 40-liter container, which is very perfectly accurate for the size of a nuclear warhead.
I mean, Esh, right? Esh.
Ishe, right?
I've always heard of Esh. Why would it be Isha?
Yeah, I don't think there's a plural of fire.
Or feminine.
Or feminine, rather, yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you getting that? I'm just really curious.
I can look it up real quick. It's going to be...
Is it a commentary? Is it Jewish?
No.
Is it Christian?
No, I mean, that's my own finding based off
Okay, that's fine. I've done the same thing with Daniel 11, so
yeah,
go
maybe it's Leviticus 1:9. Let me see. Ishe. Yeah, right here is an example.
Okay.
Right here, this word right here. Offering made by fire, Leviticus 1:9.
Okay.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. That's a shocker. Okay.
Give me some credit here, guys. Just kidding.
Hey,
no, I mean, it's good. You guys are testing what I'm saying.
Hold on, the two of you never listened to Michael Rood's presentation on this. I mean,
I don't like to suffer.
No, I like Rood. I like Michael. I differ with him on a few things, but yeah, this is not new. Rood's been teaching it. Joe Dumont, who Abraham used to be associated, teaches it. There's several people that teach this. It's not like it's
no, I've heard this.
A new theory.
Yeah.
So he said this is wickedness. That's pretty much this. It's not the same exact word. I don't think. I need to double check that. It's not fresh off my brain right now. But it's the same idea as abomination, right? Evil, wicked, repulsive.
That shit, isn't it?
Sure. What?
I think
so.
Word. Wickedness.
Shah.
Shikutzim meshamem. That's the abomination of desolation. Shikutzim meshamem. I'm not sure which word is used here with wickedness. It looks like risha.
Yeah.
Risha.
That works.
So yeah, it's close to shikutzim meshamem. It's a little different, but wickedness. It's a similar concept though, right? that what this thing is wicked. The fire offering is wicked. It's a curse that's going to cover the face of the earth. So again, when you look at this, you break down the first part. It's the actual projectile missile, the delivery system. The other part, there's a scene change, and the angel's like, take a look at this lead disc and this fire offering, and it's talking about the payload at the tip of the missile. Now, here is where is basically my second witness of Iran's role, because it says, I raised my eyes and looked, and there were two women coming with the wind in their wings. This is a little, I'm not maybe necessarily going to explain this right here, but it's the EFA, the nuclear warhead, is lifted up and taken to build a house for it in the land of Shinar. That is a very interesting and I have another witness for you guys. Shinar, in this context, is speaking of Iran, 100%.
Well, it's ancient Shumer. Shumer is it's not only Iran, but it could certainly include Iran. Yeah.
Can it include a magician area, Doug? Because when I think Shumar, Shinar, I think of that as the magician region.
Well, I mean, it's basically between the two rivers. I mean, it's actually Shnei Neharot is what that's coming from. It's between the two rivers. So Shnei Neharot is where you get Shinar, and
country of two rivers. There you go.
Yeah, and the reason
that's
why
where Mesopotamia, Shinar, they're the same thing, right?
The reason why I say it's Shinar, Doug, is Iran, is because when Daniel was in captivity, he was in Shushel, the citadel of Elam, and he was actually in the territory of Elam. And what's interesting, when you compare where Nebuchadnezzar, when he came back from conquering Jerusalem and conquering Judah, right? Distinction. When he came back to rest in the land of Babylon, you see that he came back in Shinar was actually under the possession of Nebuchadnezzar. It's inferred, it's very strongly implied, because Belshazzar talked about going to Shinar, to the house of his gods. And so Shinar was in the possession of Babylon, which therefore, by extension, because it's so close to Elam and everything else also being under the possession of Babylon, we could generally ascribe this whole idea of the abomination of desolation, when Daniel was receiving some of these visions, to be also associated with Iran, modern day Iran. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you don't necessarily jive with that, I have something else for you. Because when we're talking about the greater Exodus, okay, this is what it says in Isaiah 11:11. Let me just read this, and I think you're going to see the parallel. Isaiah 11:11, it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people who are left from Assyria and Egypt, from Pathros and Cush, from Elam and Shinar. And we see the association between the two nations in the end times, when the regathering spoken of in Matthew chapter 24, with the sound of a trump, he's going to gather the elect. You see Elam and Shinar having captives of the seed of Abraham.
Well, there are plenty of believers in modern day Iran. It's at least from reports, supposedly that is one of the fastest growing countries, because persecution will actually result in more faith than the comfort we've lived here in the West. So, but again, and I looked at some other verses earlier when you were talking, Abraham. But yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. So again. Nothing, quit worrying about us and just talk and if we disagree with you, I'll probably jump in and tell you if I think you're wrong. Maybe.
Yeah. And so what I'm seeing in Matthew 24, guys, is the abomination of desolation standing in the quote unquote holy place. When you go to Daniel chapter 9, where the context is established for, on the wing of abominations will be one who makes desolate. Then you go to Daniel chapter 11, you go to Daniel chapter 12. You look at all the places where the abomination of desolation or things related to abominations or wings of abomination are mentioned. What I see very strongly is it really is just talking about military technology. And you got to remember, guys, when you look at the 70 weeks of Daniel prophecy, when you look at the book of Revelation.
Let me jump in. How will military technology stand in the holy topos, a holy location? It might blow something up.
That's exactly what I was about to explain. So when you look at the whole 70 weeks are determined for your people in your holy city. So we're given the subject of all prophecy. 70 weeks are determined for your people in your holy city. And then you go to the book of Revelation. This is all about the great city, whether it's the judgment of the great city or the great city coming down from heaven, a renewed heavens, a renewed earth scenario. It's all about God's people, the 144,000 being a symbolic representation of all. Obviously, it's I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying it represents God's people. The regathering obviously is mentioned in Revelation. You have all these parallels. God's people in the holy city are the focus of all of end times prophecy. So when Yeshua is talking, he's just borrowing and proclaiming again, because he just quotes everything from the Old Testament, being the word made flesh. When he says, standing in the holy place, you see this wicked abomination. And obviously, you guys know my interpretation. Fire offering, nuclear missile. Obviously, that's what I think we should be looking for. Standing in the holy place, he's just reaffirming and repeating the same thing we've been seeing all over and over again. Oh, Jerusalem, you who stone the prophets and kill those who are sent to her, how I wanted to gather you under my wings like a hen gathers her chicks, but you were not willing. So it's always Jerusalem. Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones the prophets. It's the one that's responsible for the abominations of the earth in a lot of ways.
The mother of harlots.
Yeah, and she's clothed in scarlet.
Yes, she is.
No, she's not, Scott. Jeez.
Good gracious, you have been so indoctrinated into dispensation.
No, we're reading the text.
I don't believe anything that I used to think. Dude, I mean, I'm not a distant faithful, but I don't think that everything they taught was wrong. The
prophets weren't killed in Rome or the Vatican or DC or
Jerusalem
London.
Jerusalem was never called Babylon. They were called Sodom. They were called Egypt. Never Babylon. There was a place called Babylon, which was Babylon. I think it's really simple. The math is easy on this one. Okay. So Jerusalem has its faults. We all agree with that. Okay.
You've got Roman Catholicism that owns much of Jerusalem right now. You have Islam that owns much of Jerusalem, and then you have Judaism. You have three false religions.
Before Jerusalem came into existence, you had a place called Babylon, and it was known as the mother of harlots. And it was in the land of Shinar, in Shumer. Okay, it was in the land of the Shnei Neharot, in the land of the two rivers. Right. So we know that. It was this guy named Nimrod, Mr. Let's Rebel, that established that. He didn't go over to Jerusalem. Now, those two women are compared and contrasted.
Babylon
is the wife that is supposed to be faithful, pure, etc., and she isn't. So and Babylon was always
never a wife, is my point. Babylon is no doubt, not a good lady, but she was never in covenant. She never cheated on Yah. It was Jerusalem and all of Israel, not just Judah. Don't anybody think I'm just picking on Judah right now. Okay, it is all of his people. It would be Roman Catholicism and all of their pagan rituals and traditions. It would include Judaism and their Kabbalah and all of their extra biblical traditions. I'm going to throw Islam under the bus. They've got their little Black Rock in Mecca as well, and their false religion. Again, I'm being an equal opportunity false religion basher. So don't just pin me to go, ooh, you're hating on Judah. No, Jerusalem was his people. Israel was his bride. Historically, Israel has been the harlot, and that includes both harlot sisters from Ezekiel 23. They're the ones that's called the harlots. So again, when we're talking about a harlot, we're talking about a wife that's been adulterous. So that's why I believe it's Jerusalem. And again, that is who killed the prophets. It's like people don't read Matthew 23 now, just because they don't want to be labeled anti-Semitic. He says, your house is left to you desolate. Yes, after saying that I sent you prophets, you killed them. He did the parable. The son came. Again, it was all part of the plan, everybody. I
wouldn't call Jerusalem Babylon. I
didn't say Babylon. I said the mother of harlots.
But that is a title that has been used for Babylon since the beginning of time. So why ascribe it to Jerusalem when that was never her epithet?
God never made a covenant with.
But that's Babylon. Not her epithet. But you're just mixing metaphors. I mean,
to concur with Doug. In chapter 18 of Revelation, we have since in her in her heart, she says, I rule as a queen. I am no widow. I will never see grief. And
Isaiah 47, same thing, is talking about Babylon.
You can't talk. That's Babylon. That's not Jerusalem.
And we all agree that Jerusalem has her major issues, and she screwed up royally. We totally agree that. But she's likened to Egypt and Sodom, but never to Babylon.
Right.
Even though she's bad, and God dealt with her.
I will say this: so one of the things I get pushback a lot, because a lot of the Seventh-day Adventists and people kind of in the apocalyptic end times cults like Mormonism and stuff, they love to say, Catholics are responsible for everything, and obviously the SDA are like, when you look at Revelation 17, that's the Catholic Church because all the cardinals wear purple, they wear scarlet, that's all Catholic stuff. So I get it, guys. It's a difficult thing. It's, I respect everybody's opinion on this one. It's allegorical. It's an allegorical book. With the whole scarlet thing, though, I think it's important to point out Jeremiah chapter 4. If you guys go to verse 30, I think it is, it talks about Jerusalem specifically being clothed with crimson, ornaments of gold, and it is a carbon copy of what you see in Revelation 17. A lot of people kind of gloss over that when looking at the mother of harlots, or Babylon and so forth. I guess I agree with Scott's point. In order to be a whore or unfaithful, you have to have cheated on the husband. So I think that's what we're seeing.
You have to be married in the first place.
Look. Let's be clear. Jerusalem messed up royally, no doubt about it. Okay, but we can go back to the ancient Akkadian and Sumerian documents. We can see that Babylon, the actual city, in the Middle East, in between the two rivers, that city, she was known as the mother of harlots. That was an epithet before the Bible came into existence. I want to make that very clear.
She moved.
She was no, she didn't. She was called that long before. All right. And she didn't just move, but she exported. Okay, like Hollywood exports. Okay. You can find Hollywood, in India, you can find it in Guam, you can find it Hollywood everywhere because we export this stuff. Well, they did the same thing with Babylon. They exported it all over the world. And so, some of it ended up in Rome. Some of it ended up in India. Some of it ended up in Africa, right? But Babylon is the mother of harlots. And that was an epithet that Ishtar Inanna had. She was called the mother of harlots. And she was never married, by the way. This is really important. All right. So she was always this young, always available chick, very, just cosmopolitan. And being a wife, or really a mother giving birth to babies, was not her thing. Okay. And so she was known as the mother of harlots. All right. And so she was never thought to be an adulterous wife, because she wasn't really a wife. She was just this thing that was out there. So, again, I get it. Jerusalem blew it, but I think we're just mixing metaphors. I don't think that helps.
Doug, read scripture versus what some non-biblical passages say.
I'll just say this, because I admit, hey, I could be wrong about some things. I've been wrong in the past. Would you be willing to admit that you're wrong if, in fact, the 10 horns, because it's 10 nations right now in BRICS, which is remarkable, if they rise up and conquer Jerusalem, are you okay with the epiphany that, it looks like Jerusalem actually was the whore of Revelation 17 after all, right? I think we got to be open to it, that's what I'm looking for.
Look, I'm looking for truth. That's what I'm looking for. All right. And I'm, the truth that Scott is pushing is definitely chafing against me, because, again,
why? But why does it? Because let me ask you this. 100%, I believe all nations gather against Jerusalem and the house of Judah.
Sure. Yeah.
And you know that I believe that they will look to him who they pierced, and they will cry out.
That's the end of the story.
So again, I get it. But it's like, for instance, in Galatians, where Paul is doing an allegorical, he's interpreting allegorically about Jerusalem below as opposed to the Jerusalem above. What is the attachment to the physical city, other than we know that at the end times it plays a major role in fulfillment of prophecy? What is it? Again, Why would you? I'll ask this part. Why would you think these sacrifices, these offerings that Judah is probably going to do, is not going to be like spitting in your Savior's eye that offered himself, and he's now our high priest?
Well, I think we're mixing logos.
They all go together.
Phrases.
No,
It's like saying the Golden Arches is Burger King. Like, no, the Golden Arches is McDonald's, right? I mean, you can decide if you like or hate their food, but what I'm saying here is that the designation, the epithet of the mother of harlots is not something that was ascribed to Jerusalem. It was very clearly, historically ascribed to Babylon. Babylon was a real place.
And that's a valid point.
Culture was then exported. Some of that culture went to Jerusalem. I agree with that. Okay. But, then some of the culture went to Rome. Clearly, Rome and the papacy and all that stuff, they're part of the problem. I totally get it. I just think when we fixate on saying, well, now Rome is Babylon, I think that's silly. We had a first century Jewish population in Babylon, in Mesopotamia. And I think sometimes people just get a little bit lazy and they're like, well, Peter was just writing a bunch of people in Rome. No, he wasn't. He was writing to people in Babylon, right? And it was the third largest Jewish population in the first century was actually in Babylon. Okay, it was Jerusalem, Alexandria, Babylon. All right, and so Babylon was still a real place. And this is where I just think that we just have to, just be accurate with what we're saying. We all get to the same place. We know Jesus is coming back, and Jerusalem's a major player in this thing. But the ire that God has to ultimately, utterly destroy Babylon is not the same intentions that he has toward Jerusalem. He wants to save Jerusalem. He doesn't want to nuke.
He's
Jerusalem.
Zealous for Jerusalem. He's not going to blast it.
And that's why I think when we start saying that, Jerusalem is Babylon, well, then that means all the things that God has against Babylon, he's now going to do it against Jerusalem. And that's not what it says. He's coming to save Babylon. I mean, this we get into the whole preterism thing that Jesus came back in the dust clouds of the Roman army so that he could destroy those darn Jews. This is where I think we just get into just muddy waters. And I think we should be very careful.
That's Jesuit theology that they taught that, and again, there's a bunch of people that believe that nonsense, but it's completely role reversal. Y'all didn't save Jerusalem and Judah and the house of Judah in 70 AD. They got murdered and slaughtered. Nothing about Zechariah 12 was fulfilled, or Zechariah 14. Now, maybe 2/3 of the city got cut off, but there was certainly no savior. Judah did not look to him who they pierced. They did not cry out, and they were not saved. So again, both 70 AD preterism and 70 AD and Daniel's 70th week futurism were invented as part of the Counter-Reformation about this future temple, and we have to have the temple for prophecy fulfilled. My heart, I differ passionately with you guys. My heart is people are going to think they have more time because they've been programmed to believe one of these two Jesuit theology.
But you yourself think
we're not
topos, right? You think there's going to be a topos?
No. I've already told you the topos is wholly irrespective of what's there. That's my understanding.
I would disagree with that.
Disagree. So let's time out on this and have another show on that, whether it's going to be holy or not, and we'll just dig into that. Abraham, let's go back to you. Okay.
Yeah. Let me throw this on screen because I think it ties in. It ties into what Doug shared earlier, and I think it ties in well to this conversation. I think we're all in agreement, right?
We're not. But that's another show.
I don't want to be. No.
We're not in agreement, but that's another show. Well, let's do Abraham.
Matthew 24, Isaiah 22, Zechariah 5, Isaiah 11:11.
Okay.
Elam has a massive role in end times prophecy.
Sure.
From obviously the archers overtaking Jerusalem, which I believe ties directly into Matthew 24, to Shinar basically having an overlapping border region right there in the western border of Iran, to then captives being freed out of Elam and Shinar being used in conjunction in that passage in Isaiah. I think that's very heavy duty evidence that we need to be looking for Iran. And that's why I focus on Iran a lot. They happen to have the most advanced capabilities in the entire Middle East.
So what's the difference between Elam and Persia? Persia is Iran. So Elam seems to be more west of Iran
That's a
or
good point.
Persia.
Kurds.
So
Yeah, that's a good point, Joel. Yeah,
wouldn't argue the Kurds. They're a different ballgame. But Elam, so you're saying chapter 22 on Elam and maybe a little bit from Zechariah, but Persia is huge in Ezekiel 38, 39. Huge.
exactly. And that's what ties in my view, to the BRICS nations. Because, again, this is a tricky concept, right? The day of the Lord. Everybody has an
Right.
opinion on it. It's difficult because it's like, why does it speak of blessings here and it speaks of cursings and bad things over here? And
It's
what I've come
1,000
to
years long.
is that when you look at a day, right? There's two
Yep.
parts to a day. There's evening and morning. And so it begins with the thick darkness of judgment upon Jerusalem in the west. Okay. That's the way I've interpreted that. But then you have obviously Yeshua coming back, standing on the Mount of Olives, judging all the enemies, Valley of Jehoshaphat, the whole 9 yards. Zechariah chapter 14, you have redemption. But the evening of the day of the Lord comes first, which you look at Joel, you look at the palm trees of smoke, you look at all these different things that are going to happen. So the day of the Lord's tricky when we look at Ezekiel 38, 39, and that you see all those nations coming against Jerusalem that is going to be protected. It is going to be blessed. And these types of things, that's technically day of the Lord part 2, in my view, okay? Because Jerusalem, Jerusalem's having the largest, pride flag parades and everything they were up until the October 7th war. I mean, it is Sodom and Egypt. And so it can't possibly be blessed under supernatural protection like everybody is alleging and purporting because of dispensational theology and basically the Schofield Bible of 1909 and Christian Zionism, right? Everybody's really hooked on this idea that there is a regathering and anti-Semitism is a sin according to Genesis, the blessings of Genesis. And these things are being taken out of context, out of proportion, and applied not necessarily in the correct way because the seed of Abraham is spiritual, right? Everybody who calls upon the name of Yeshua, that is a true Jew. But really, we're not neither Jew nor Greek, slave or free. We're all one in Christ.
We're one in Messiah.
And we're grafted in. So there's really not this idea of there being a secular nation state that if we don't say the right things or treat them a certain way, we're going to be cursed. That's something that came around with the Schofield Bible.
Abraham, but I view the regathering of Judah, and I don't care if I really don't care on this issue what their bloodline is. I don't get into the genealogies, but I do believe that 100% the house of Judah in unbelief, meaning rejecting Yeshua, had to be brought back into the land for Zechariah 12 to be fulfilled. Unless everybody in that land is wiped out and replaced by another people group who are 100 years or 1,000 years in the future, who are keeping Shabbat and who are honoring his feast and who are understanding that, with all their add-ons and additions and takeaways, understanding what is food, that I believe what is there. Are there some that are that are no doubt in the synagogue of Satan and are pretend Jews? 100% at the upper echelons, no doubt. But the local rabbi, those individuals, and so that's where I see so much hatred, venom, vitriol towards anybody that even claims to be Jewish. And they're like, no, you wouldn't know. And then again, they're guilty on this side of the fence of being arrogant, I believe, or potentially arrogant towards someone who might actually be of that natural branch. And I just rarely see balance. You see that side of the equation in which they do the research, they study the history of Judah for the past 1900 years. They see who were the leaders and the heads behind communist Russia. They see the Rothschilds. They see all these things, but it's like they can't miss what at the upper echelon, that the top of the pyramid, and distinguish that from the rest of the house of Judah, who simply, we, meaning the house of Israel, the Christians who are supposed to be one in Messiah, we've done a very horrible job over the past 1,995 years, making Judah jealous. In other words, I had a show recently where she was a Jewish lady. She was a follower of Yeshua, and she does no Judah traditions. In other words, she doesn't do any of their traditions, and that makes them more jealous that she's just keeping Shabbat, keeping the feast. She's only eating what the Bible calls as food, but she's rejecting the rabbinic kosher law. She's rejecting all the, I must say this prayer on this day. I must do it this way. And so again, I think that's what's happening right now but as people are coming out of Christianity, sometimes they're getting over in bed too much with the rabbis, and then they start practicing Judaism light. And so
Yeah.
I just believe that, to your point, I just want to make sure I clarify that Judah's been gathered there for judgment and then ultimately repentance. So they will repent.
It's going to be worldwide judgment.
Well,
and there
but
will
I'm
be
talking
worldwide
about-
repentance.
I'm talking about specifically Joel 3, Zechariah.
It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing,
But
guys.
at the very end, Joel, when all nations gather against Jerusalem and against the house of Judah, you don't see the house of Israel mentioned. You don't see Ephraim and Joseph mentioned in Zechariah 12.
Because we're talking about the nations getting wiped out. Gog Magog.
Well, the nations are gathering against
70.
Judah. So,
Yeah. Let me go back to Joel's question. So with Persia, Brother Joel, like Ezekiel 38,
Persia.
39,
Yep.
like, yeah. How come the text doesn't say more specifically Persia? Really, Elam got swallowed up into the whole, Medes and Persians. They're kind of swallowed into the, obviously there's no distinction these days in a nationalistic sense. Of course, there might be like, wives' tales and oral traditions where people know that they're Elamites, but essentially Persia, when it says Persia in Ezekiel and talking about the day of the Lord and the nations gathered against Jerusalem, what I want to present to you guys, which is what I've been presenting on my channel, is we should be looking for those exact same nations, right? Gog, Magog, Rosh, Meshech, Tubal, all the people of the far north, and of course Persia, which is right now Iran. We should be looking for those nations to have an alliance now and of course later.
So are you watching Turkey?
Are
you watching Turkey? You're not watching Russia, are you?
Russia, yes, because they're supplying the warheads. Technically, I believe they've already supplied a warhead to Iran.
But do they really want to nuke Jerusalem, or is that Turkey that wants to do so?
It's hard to say. I think with obviously Ukraine, like I just told you guys at the beginning here, sending a drone strike to a Turkish-Russian gas line, they're stirring up the whole hornet's nest at this point. And who's funding?
But that's Ukraine doing,
which is Zelensky, which is directly allied with DC, which is directly allied to Netanyahu. I mean, they're all in bed together.
No, I wouldn't say Netanyahu wants a lot to do with Zelensky. Zelensky's a wild guy.
They're all Jewish. They're all
he's
Jewish
a puppet.
guys.
No. Zelensky is not. He is Jewish, but he's not acting as a Jew at all. We can't prove any faith in him at all. Actually, Bibi does sit in on Torah studies. I'm aware of that. I've got friends that have sat in with him. He's not that bad of a guy. He's a courageous man. Zelensky's a coward.
He's playing his role, just like Trump will.
We're all playing. This show is playing its role.
Of course.
I feel like we should start playing Rush or something, that all the world's a stage and we're just
it is. We're living in it.
All right. So speaking of Iran, latest news: Iran is considering moving their capital from Tehran to Makran in the south, and a possible new leader on the rise.
Just wanted to get Abraham's thoughts on that. I don't really have much to say about it.
I haven't heard about this, but I'll look into it, because if that's true, if they move their capital to the south, it'd be actually closer to historical Elam.
Okay, so here, go with this then.
Yeah.
Oh no,
ahead, Abraham.
Oh no.
We talked about the citrus man earlier. Go ahead and stir the hornet's nest. And
I have nothing to do with this, by the way.
I did.
No, don't put that.
I can actually address that question with what I wanted to talk about after Joel's question. Which if I can share my screen, let me share my screen.
Yeah,
sure. This is from the Grand Lodge of British Columbia and Yukon. So this is not a third-party source. So back in 1909, guys, in the Illustrated London News, 1909, this is what the Freemasons were talking about back then, okay? This is what the Boston Freemasons proposing a plan to rebuild King Solomon's Temple. Besides, this is a really interesting topic for me personally, because besides Iran obviously doing something, I mean, they're going to try at least, right? We can all agree on that. They're going to try to attack Israel again. In the mix of all this, maybe there is going to be a little bit of peace with Trump. Maybe there is going to be a little golden age that's going to end badly, but
a speed bump.
Maybe we should be looking, speed bump. Maybe we should be looking for rebuilding the temple. So this is what they were saying back in 1909, guys. Think about how long ago.
It's in their version of the Bible, the King James Bible as well.
Oh no, really?
Masonic King. The Masonic.
Oh, the Masonic. Okay.
Yeah,
what?
Yeah. Well, they have the whole dimensions of the temple and how it's all going to work together. And
from Ezekiel 40 through 48, they pulled it out of there.
Well, no, that picture right there of what you're showing there.
Oh.
They've been very bullish, let's say, on rebuilding the temple, Solomon's temple.
Yeah.
So
let me read this and give some commentary, because I think it's going to open some eyes here, because they've been planning this for a while, guys. Look at this. There comes, it need it be said, from America, in point of fact from Boston, a suggestion that the Freemasons of the world shall subscribe that the Temple of Solomon may be rebuilt at Jerusalem. With the suggestion comes the remark that the undertaking would be an enormous one and that they would cost a vast amount of money. This is obviously true, but we wonder whether those with whom this scheme originated have really counted the cost. So that's what this article basically did. They kind of quantified what it would cost in terms of, I believe, just the building materials, not even the labor involved, just the building materials. And what they said is that, we have to think about how we're going to do this, because there is not only the question of ways and means to be considered. The site originally occupied by the temple is now filled by the Harem Sharif, the noble sanctuary, which to the Muslims is only less sacred than Mecca and Medina, which is still the case, right? It's the third most holy site in Islam, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. For it is believed to cover the rock that is regarded by them as the center of the earth, the place from which Muhammad started when he visited heaven. Obviously, the spelling has changed over the past 100 years, right, guys?
Yeah.
Therefore, it is obvious that any attempt to interfere with the present condition of things, here's the key, would in all probability bring about the greatest religious war the world has ever known. Meantime, it is stated that the Freemasons of Boston have begun operations by applying for the incorporation of a company to take the matter in hand. You cannot make this stuff up, guys.
And that was still when the Ottoman Empire was around,
you're right.
Right?
Yeah,
they were still kicking the Ottoman Empire.
I believe, to everybody's point, I believe Trump and little Damien are probably going to play a major role in what I believe will be abominations that are coming in the near future. So, Abraham, I teed it up for you. Maybe show your little screenshot that you showed earlier with Trump.
No. Ixnay.
No, please be quiet.
Well,
before we say anything,
I don't want our audience to leave.
Look at Trump Tower, and on the top of it, there's a black cube. Go over to Mecca and look at the black cube. Now when you look at Trump Tower,
this is I made this. Okay,
shape.
I'm responsible for this.
Yeah, send your cards and letter to Abraham. Overcome Babylon, not Joel, not Doug. Well, you can send them to Scott.
You can go to the Telegram group and you can tell them off there. Okay,
exactly.
Post it on Telegram. You can tell them off there.
Guys, these guys have nothing to do with it. This is my meme. All right.
No.
But yeah, you obviously have the consolidation of the surveillance pyramid with TikTok. If it does happen this Sunday, you have the consolidation of massive amounts of data available at the fingertips. So
you think he's going to disconnect from the Chinese database and just move it into the X database? You think he's going to do that?
It would be difficult, but not
That's
impossible.
Huge.
Yeah.
In Memphis, wonder why he chose that city.
That is odd. I'm not defending Elon Musk.
Is that a dead Twitter on his shirt? The poor thing.
Is that a dead Twitter on? Yeah,
on Elon Musk's shirt.
Yeah,
he killed Twitter. It's too bad.
He killed Twitter. Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Well,
it was all part of the plan.
All part of the plan,
he's a champion of free speech, Joel. People love him. I mean, he's the rocket man, the golden age. He's sending out.
There will be deceptions on all sides. Okay,
he sent out an X tweet today about the Golden Dawn when his little rocket landed. Neuralink,
all four of us will be adjusting our eschatologies on a daily basis. Things are happening so fast.
We have a couple of questions, I think.
Yeah, take them.
We should
as long as they had nothing to do with Trump.
Yeah, this one is, I think, innocuous. They're already saying that quantum computing AI has reached other dimensions. So Eric, the whole thing about quantum computing is the idea that with a classical computer, which is what we all use, it's either a 1 or a 0. It's on or off. Okay, so it's in one state or the other. With a quantum computer, it can be in both states at the same time. And so Gordy Rose, the former CEO of D-Wave Computers, is on record saying that by using this quantum quantum entanglement. All right, that they're able to. You could be in both states at the same time, so you're basically reaching into another dimension, and you're going to take the resources from that. Exactly what he meant, you could argue, but it sure sounds esoteric and pretty darn weird. All right, and when it comes to quantum entanglement and wormholes, think we're talking about the same thing based on the research that I've read anyway. That they think that we'd be able to do quantum tunneling, or basically a wormhole, for lack of a better word. This is the Einstein Rosen paradox, and or the EPR, right? So the Einstein something Rosen, paradox. So they talk about this and how you could use some stuff. So there's some exciting research that's happening in the fields of quantum research, quantum mechanics, and what's the stinking word? What did Einstein do? The relativity. Okay, so basically they're figuring out ways that they can kind of marry these two. So we don't know exactly, but we'll have to wait and see. So anyway,
are they mocking the Father's mark, the Tav, by using the X?
Oh, look! If you just Abraham, I bet you probably can explain the symbols much better than I can, as far as the X and the one where he's got the 9 and you invert it and you look into a mirror and it says 9/11. Or have you looked into that yet?
No, actually, I haven't. There's a lot of little theories floating around, but yeah, the symbolism and stuff's everywhere. I don't have too much on the whole, act.
He's always posing in the same occultic Osiris, where Osiris rises from the dead, and so again, once you sort of dove into the pool and swum around this pool, and you start to understand some of the symbols that the occult uses, you can't unsee it. You see it in every television program. You especially see it in like, for instance, the World Economic Forum has 666 in its logo.
I've seen that.
You see it everywhere.
CERN has it too,
right? The barcodes. It's in every barcode.
That's satanic. Don't buy any things at the stores, people. The barcodes.
I'm joking.
Yeah, it's there. Who cares?
Well, but the barcodes probably were sort of like a precedent that's got us to where we are right now. I mean, it was sort of an initial... Or
we were seeing things. Maybe we were seeing things. I mean, that's possible too.
No.
And the monster cans, those blasted monster cans with the little blah blah blah. I know it's just so stupid.
Yeah. Let's not lose our brains.
What else you got for us, Abraham?
Yeah.
Well, let me show you guys this again. That's pretty much all I had. I mean, I could have gone more detail, but I got this for you guys real quick. This is just because, I mean, it's wars, rumors of wars. This is what Iran currently has in their arsenal, guys. So when I was talking about the Zechariah's flying scroll,
sure.
When you actually look at the dimensions and convert the dimensions given in the Bible and the Masoretic text from cubits to meters, this is what you get. You get the height. Right there is the red line. That's approximately where the flying scroll of Zechariah is supposed to be. And it's amazing, guys, that such an old manuscript, such an old document said this is how tall this flying missile, this flying scroll is going to be. And it matches modern military technology. You cannot tell me that the Bible is not inspired by God. The Bible is 100% inerrant, inspired, and infallible, man. It is a beautiful book. It is God's word of revelation to us. And so when you look at this red line, so you have a lot of missiles that actually fit the criteria for hitting Israel, specifically what would be the abomination of desolation, or just the archers of Elam unleashing wave after wave, which we already witnessed in 2024, guys. Remember, April of 2024 was the first time that Iran had ever actually taken on Israel and launched a bunch of stuff, whether it was drones and missiles. And then in October, they did it again. And in my opinion, in October, they were even more successful. And so what I had on screen are just the different options that they have for what could be a nuclear tipped missile delivery system. You have the Fatah is the most interesting, but it's actually, they've already developed things that are even probably better than the Fatah now. because it was first unveiled in 2023. And I don't know if you guys study military technology. I'm not super versed in it, but what I can tell you is that they're constantly adjusting, making things more streamlined, making things more compact. So even though the Fatah, the hypersonic ICBM missile there that you see, which by the way is Mach 14, that's why it can reach Israel in 6 minutes, even though it's too tall to fit into the specifications of Zechariah's scroll, it is easily able to adapt to that because, again, military technology is rapidly evolving and rapidly changing. So in my opinion, they're going to use something just like the Fatah. They're already using in Yemen, the Palestine twos. They're already successfully bypassing Israel's missile defense system. So Israel has David's sling. They have different types of Patriot battery systems from the United States that we've given them. They also have the Iron Dome, which a lot of people are familiar with. In the Iron Dome, they trust. They're not putting their trust in Yah. They're putting their trust in military technology.
And not to mention, they're putting their trust in America. I mean, because again, yes, if America cuts off Israel, and what does Scripture actually say? His people are not to make treaties with other nations. His people are not. And I get the geopolitical situation, everybody. I totally understand it. We must have to have allies. But again, Israel, all of Israel, and I'm including even unbelieving Judah in that right now, they will be grafted back in. Their belief is the resurrection from the dead. But they are trusting in America right now. They're not trusting in.
They were supposed to come back in unbelief, and they are back in unbelief.
Yeah, correct.
Sounds like prophecy. Works for me.
So since Israel's founding as a nation, the United States has given them $318 billion in aid. Just aid, guys. It's free money. $318 billion. That's a 2023 statistic. It'll be a little higher now, because since the start of the October 7th Hamas attack and that whole war there, we've already given them $17.9 billion since that tail end of last year, Gregorian, of course. So, I mean, you're looking at 17.9 billion, over 300 billion cumulative. Yeah, Israel wouldn't exist without the United States. So the question then becomes, which is kind of what I talked about last time I was here on the roundtable with you guys. If America is compromised, Israel is in big trouble. How could America get compromised? Well, guys, there's asymmetrical warfare now. You don't have to be the toughest guy militarily anymore on the block, in a geopolitical stage like what we're seeing now. You can do cyber warfare. You can do different types of asymmetrical attacks. Things are more sophisticated now in modern World War III warfare than they ever have been. There's pipelines that can be sabotaged, underwater cables, data cables that can be cut at any time, telecom, all kinds of things can be disrupted.
Our power grid, again, and I'm not endorsing Sean Ryan. I think a lot of it could be psyops and former current spooks, if you will, that go on there. But it would, according to some of these individuals, it would take almost nothing to shut down our power grid. I mean, we could literally, this country could be brought to its knees internally in less than a week. I mean, food does not grow in grocery stores, everybody. And so I've always thought there would be something like that, maybe a natural disaster. Abraham, you brought that up the last time we were on, an earthquake, something that disrupts everything. Maybe perhaps a military strike from North Korea, China, Iran that cripples us. In other words, I've always thought that this goes back to my dad, that somehow for these BRICS nations, and that America would have to be crippled or almost removed as a military power for this to happen. Because right now, if Iran were to decide they wanted to attack Israel, back to that treaty and back to who they're, we have always been the ally of the nation state of Israel. Iran would be signing its own death warrant, especially with Citrus Man about to be
So let's get back to reality. You're talking about war, Abraham, and no, but Trump. You know what Trump's going to do? He's going to be in office shortly, and he's going to set up tariffs against many nations. China's already on the edge. They could crumble at any point in time. They're losing their population faster than we are, and other countries are in destitute shape right now. Germany is ready to die. Okay, so if he starts to tariff out all these people, or he goes back to Germany and other EU countries and says, "Hey, you need to pay your fair NATO share," they'll balk, because they don't have the cash anymore. They have made so many mistakes. So why can't he tariff everybody into oblivion, and then they come back and say, we hate you, America, and then you get your war. Why wouldn't that occur?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scenarios to consider here, man. I mean, ever since 2020, inflation has gone through the roof. You know, different nations have different inflation rates. I've been studying Iran a lot lately. I can tell you their inflation rate's somewhere around 35%. They have internal problems. Muslims are leaving the mosques over in Iran. I know I'm focusing on Iran a lot. It's just, you know, you look at why things are happening, why, you know, Iran, the regime is getting desperate. They're losing their culture. They're losing, you know, a lot of countries. You said China. Yeah, same thing with China. There's a lot of internal strife in a lot of these BRICS nations, really worldwide. After 2020, the monetary system became very unstable. So right now it's a battle for resources. What I'm seeing, you have obviously Russia in BRICS. They're wanting to control gold commodities, not trade with the US dollar. They unveiled the BRICS dollar, the BRICS currency, back in October when they had their annual summit. There's Putin holding a BRICS note.
Trump and Musk and his pals will save us. They will put us off the system. We'll get a digital currency. It'll be brand new. You know, everybody will get a sustainable wage development, and you know, you may not even have to kiss his butt except on the left cheek to get it. Hope you know. So,
well, with Trump coming in, you see the foreign investments. Remember, I talked about that. You have hundreds of billions of dollars. Well, at least 100 billion. But 20 billion alone just from one UAE businessman coming in to put data centers. The fix is in, guys. So it's really a matter of what is going to happen with all of this tech infrastructure, because it's heavily energy dependent. Right. It's very heavy on resources. Actually, one of the criticisms of Musk putting in his AI data center in Memphis is that there's a lot of pollution because of it. Like it's a big suck on the energy grid over there. And one thing I find fascinating, which ties into a lot of stuff that I presented to you guys, is why did Musk decide to put the XAI data center, which it used to be an Electrolux facility? It's a big old warehouse with tons of servers in it, like a bunch of NVIDIA chips. It's just wires all over the place. It's crazy. Massive data collection center powered by AI. Why would he put that just south of the New Madrid seismic zone when that thing is about to pop?
Yeah, you're right. It's ready to go, guys. The reports are on it. Yeah.
Listen to his interview with Jordan Peterson. like you might as well just start stroking your little kitty cat.
Maybe I am an alien. Yeah, that was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys look at this, so the Cascadia, I've talked about this. I'm just going to recap a little bit. Remember what I talked about with Cascadia and New Madrid? So let's talk about the Cascadia real quick. As far as natural disasters in the United States, the Cascadia is due. It's on a 320-year cycle, and scientists are saying it's ready. They judge that based off of the coastal sedimentary records, a bunch of other data points that they look at. The New Madrid is interesting because it went off in the 1300s, 1600s. It went off again in the 1800s. So it kind of looks like it's a 200-year cycle. And if that's the case, that is also due now, guys, because the last time the New Madrid went off with 7.0 earthquakes that totally disrupted the whole entire region of the Midwest and everything else, I mean, that happened in 1811. So 2011 would have been right on the 200-year mark. But it's, again, I would keep my eyes on that. I think what's going to happen, this is just a soft prediction. I'm not super heady about it. Like this is going to happen, that kind of a thing. But I think with all the consolidation of big tech, surveillance, powered by AI, all of the things that they're putting in, getting ready to roll out that cryptocurrency, that one world currency, and everything that they're trying to do for consolidation of power, it's a huge power grab what we're seeing. I think they're going to be really shocked and surprised that they're not going to realize just how weak and naked they really are. They're drunk on power now, but all it would take is the New Madrid to activate, and Elon Musk's hard work. He hardly sleeps. I've read his biography. The guy works himself to death, according to the biography that Isaacson wrote in 2023. All his hard work is going to go in the toilet when God lifts his finger, and that New Madrid is going to go off. Of course,
they have redundancy. It's not like they have only one data center. They have lots of redundancy, so they might have 2 or 3 or 4 other ones.
When I was selling Amazon, we were redundant. Their data was moving constantly. We were never down.
That's a good point. Yeah, actually,
okay.
And Go ahead, Joel.
So let's do this. John Haller sent in, as of today, there is no BRICS currency. I do not know what you are reading. They are talking, but no agreement. So the bottom line is nobody trusts China's currency system because they have they have issues, counterfeit bills, things like that. Russia, nobody trusts them either. And so they don't have a currency yet. They don't have a digital currency. They don't have a trustworthy system. They don't have, even though you may think that our bankers are dishonest, they're good at accounting, and so our banking system is relatively reliable. They don't have that at all. So you can't just dump it on to the BRICS people and say, they've got 10 nations, that's our big 10 horns, done. I don't think it quite works out, guys. I think there's another answer there. And I would say it's big tech instead that sets it up. They're more logical.
Yeah, I agree with that, Joel. It takes time. These things take time, BRICS didn't do anything from 2009, its inception, until 2023. That they finally announced, hey, we're bringing new countries in. Nothing happened for over a decade.
Right.
Almost 2 decades.
I will say that BRICS hates our guts, and that will be like chickens coming home to roost, but not yet.
Versus West. I mean,
it is.
Hey, Abraham, I want to get your thoughts about maybe Daniel 8 and that being potentially a future prophecy between the East and the West, maybe Turkey, Iran, or NATO, America.
Are you doing the ram versus the two?
Yeah. I wanted to get Abraham's thoughts. I mean, I know what our friend Les Walters teaches on this and has videos if anybody's interested, but I didn't know if Abraham had ever. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Daniel chapter 8 is interesting. I believe part of it's historical, and then part of it is like later on in the future. This pertains to the time of the end. It specifically says that. So I don't look at the ram versus the goat at the beginning as being like a here and now type of thing. I believe it is more historical. But again, there's a lot of layers to prophecy, right, guys? You guys know this. There's 2, sometimes even 3 fulfillments of things throughout history. It's very cyclical. I do believe that the vision of the 2300, which is in Hebrew, it's literally 2300 Erev Boker. So it's evening, morning. It isn't actually, it doesn't use the word yom or yomim or days. It doesn't use the word. So I present the case in my work that actually has already been fulfilled. The 2300.
That's another show. You want to come back on again sometime?
Well, I don't know if Doug wants to have me on to talk about Enoch.
Well, he's coming on your show tomorrow.
We're gonna have fun, Doug. We're gonna have fun. By the way, I can't wait.
What's the show on tomorrow?
I never want to do a show that's based on anything in Enoch or Jubilees or anything not in Scripture. So I personally wouldn't participate. We can learn things from them, but I am like very, very much not in favor of trusting Enoch, Jubilees, or any of those.
Well, Scott,
what's the show on tomorrow?
It's the origin story of Enoch and why it's not Scripture. People don't know where it came from.
That would be different if you were talking. Oh, that's right. I listened to your video, Abraham. I should have known. You actually did a wonderful job debunking and destroying Enoch as being not Scripture.
Well,
not yet. I'm still working on that. But yeah, anyways, tomorrow.
He's going to come back and share with us.
I'm not coming on that show.
Why not?
Oh no, because Enoch is cited in Jude and in Second Peter and First Peter.
So are the Greek poets.
Second Peter, it's quoted in Second Peter.
No, it's not.
2 Peter 2.
No,
2:4 through 8.
Oh boy,
we'll talk about it. That's another show.
Your Mormon Bible. I'm just curious.
Mormon Bible.
Tartarus.
You get that out of the Vedas.
JW Bible. I mean,
2 Peter 2:4 through 8. Tartarus.
Billy Carson, you've been getting your research from Billy.
You guys, this has been wild, Abraham. I can't believe you put up with this. It's just been slapping all night.
That's hilarious that you knew that, Doug. That the Mormons actually hold up the Book of Enoch as inspired. Yeah, the Mormons do.
Well,
it's not from Satan.
I like this.
What have we got?
Putnam. He said whoever wrote Enoch was smoking weed and reading Jude.
I miss Putnam. He was fun.
I don't even know who that is. So
was Chris Putnam?
No.
He was a writer with Tom Horn. He was part of that group. Yeah.
Yeah, you would have liked him. He was all against Rome, you know.
Shameless plug for Doug. He's going through Isaiah, and Doug does some great teaching. So everybody, do join. If you don't have a local fellowship that you attend, join Doug's fellowship and listen to him live on Shabbat. So
what time is the show tomorrow, Abraham, with Doug?
Tomorrow, guys, 6 p.m. Okay, join us. Doug and I are going to go through apologetics. I have clips that are hilarious. Like, seriously, if you want to get a good laugh. Now, we're gonna be respectful. We're gonna be polite. We're like, hey, I respect these people's work in certain ways. But look at the contradictions here. They contradict. I even have a clip of a very famous pastor who goes to college campuses contradicting himself within a minute of him saying one thing about God's law and another thing about God's law. So you don't want to miss this. It's going to sharpen your apologetics. We're going to have a lot of fun. Doug doesn't know all the clips. He doesn't know really what I'm going to be bringing to the table. So you're going to get a raw, organic reaction from
That's
Doug.
good. Doug does well with reaction shots. He loves that. And the audience loves it too. So do that. So 6 o'clock Central or 6 o'clock Mountain Time?
6 o'clock Mountain, 8 p.m. EST. So
okay,
be there, guys. Be there. Yeah,
yeah,
it's going to be a lot
Mountain's
of
the
fun.
best, man. Mountain's the best.
Central rules.
Yeah, whatever.
It's better to standardize on Central. So.
You guys can have it when the tsunami hits you first. Don't come here to Colorado,
Dude,
man.
I live on a mountain.
Hey, it's all good, dude. You're good.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, everyone, I put it in the link for my teaching on Saturday. Please do come and join me. If you're in Denver, come in person, please. The Way Congregation. So, oh my gosh. Okay, well, we had a lot of fun. Thank you. Hey, guys, just keep in prayer one of our dear friends who is a regular viewer of the show, and a wonderful couple that lives here in the Denver area. The husband fell, he hurt his face. He's going to need surgeries in the hospital. So just keep him in prayer. I would appreciate that.
Is that the lady that I talk to frequently, Doug? She emails both of us?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, then I know. Thank you. Okay.
All right, well, until next time, guys, God bless you. Join us tomorrow and join me on Shabbat for the time we're going through Isaiah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Abraham.